I think for OBM's podcast this year, I think the biggest takeaway for me and our listeners, I guess, would be getting like a first person's perspective. If you didn't have a system in place to take care of people you invite to your country, don't invite them.
Both of you sitting here today have your jobs because of connections that you made, whether it was a connection that you made for yourself or a connection that was made for you. I think it's safe to say that evidence shows 100% of the time, if you have a good connection, it's more likely to result in a job than if you don't. Welcome back, everybody. This is the Olive podcast, the podcast where we sit down with all of you. And this is our year in review. Am I Dr. Seussing, like rhyming really crazy right now? Rhymed. Oh my gosh. Okay. I'm getting really good at this podcasting thing, apparently, with my alliteration and whatnot coming to me so naturally. Anyways, welcome back, everybody. I've got two of my favorite people on the planet on the set with me today. You know, Sham. Hey, Sham.
Hello.
And Yash has been on the set before, one of the very, very early on episodes. If you have not watched that episode, somebody will put some kind of a link somewhere on the screen for you to click and watch that episode. I'm also remembering that I'm supposed to say, if you have not liked
shared
or
and
subscribed or shared an Olive podcast episode so far this year, it would be amazing if you would do that, because we are creeping in on 100 subscribers, which is kind of fun. I think we tipped over 80, and some of our content is actually our short form content on YouTube is doing pretty well. And I would say some of the short reels on the Instagram are performing pretty well too. What do you guys think about what's going on with the podcast? What are your thoughts on where things started back to when we were originally talking about the podcast to where it is today?
I think I was very nervous about this. I was very skeptical about the structure and how we want to distribute our content and what's the theme or what's the genre going to be like. And I feel like with all the people that came in so far and just how versatile our group was so far, I feel like it's just become a little bit more chill, and we're able to explore different arenas without being too frantic
and controversial or any. I feel like everything that we've talked about has been very natural and
most of the times professional.
Yeah.
So, most of the time
before we start, most of the time there's a lot of content that's been cut out anyways. But we were just talking before we hit record that we think we're going to do seasons, and I think that makes the most sense, because for me anyway, kind of being a little bit of the mastermind behind the creativity to the episodes, I didn't necessarily know going into this exactly what the theme of things was. I knew the type of people that I wanted to be able to sit down with, but I didn't necessarily know kind of what the target audience or even what the target topics were going to be that we discussed. And I think the beautiful thing that sort of organically occurred is every single person that I've sat down with, that we've sat down with, has been able to tell us about their journey and their professional growth.
Yeah.
And the challenges that they've faced, whether it be in their professional growth journey or within their professional industry, which I think is very cool, because if you're somebody like me who's literally worked in healthcare my entire life, and I've never had the opportunity to be exposed to other areas of the workforce and the challenges and barriers and struggles that other industries experience, or at least I kind of felt a little bit ignorant or narrow-minded about healthcare challenges being unique to healthcare. But if I'm not mistaken, every industry kind of has similar crap happening, job searches, wild. The challenges you have with leadership seem to be very similar. There's no resources or budget for anything anywhere. It feels like burnout is rampant across the
Everywhere.
across the board.
Yeah.
And so I think I went into this feeling I really want to sit down with a lot of healthcare professionals and whatnot, but along the way we've kind of sprinkled people outside of healthcare
Yeah.
as well, which really sort of normalizes, I think, for me, like the human experience that we're all going through as young professionals, just trying to frickin' figure it out in our professional
Exactly.
worlds.
Like for people like us who don't have any idea what's happening
Within
at
the
any jobs in a foreign country, it gives us an idea how you want to deal with things, where in which direction you want to go ahead.
Very much.
Yeah.
I think my biggest giveaway was also similar to that. Like, no matter which stage of your career you're going to be in, you're always going to be exactly as confused and clueless.
Yeah.
I say this, I know it's so like repetitive, but I have no idea what I'm doing. And I literally, just before we hit record, I was saying like, I don't know what, I feel like I'm at the beginning of my career again. Like I
Yeah.
feel like I'm trying to figure it out from scratch all over again because I've been doing what I've been doing for what feels like so long for me. And I just think at some point, responsibly and professionally, I need to identify if this is not the thing that drives me anymore, if it's not the thing that I'm passionate about anymore, then I should be taking a really good hard look at myself to figure out what it is exactly I want to be doing. Do you have anything to say?
No, I was just going to ask that exact thing that I think you were going to point at, so I'll let you do it.
Yeah, well, I wanted to say, like, Yash, you recently have had the opportunity to dip your toe in patient flow
Mm-hmm.
in the
Just a
organization that
weekend.
you're at, like
Yeah.
just a week. I need you to remember that my first job in patient flow, I sent you the picture of my business card
Yeah.
this week, was 11 years ago. I've been doing this shit for 11 years. Like, I know patient flow inside out, backwards, forwards, frontwards. I could run a patient flow department with my eyes closed.
11 years still seem like a short time.
I don't know. Not to
What
me.
were you doing 11 years ago?
You were a child.
For me,
Yeah.
I think I must be studying in some class.
11 years ago, I would have been in 8th grade.
Cute. 8th grade,
What
Sham.
I would have been in 10th, maybe.
Man, when I think
My
about what
math
I
could
was
be
like
like
in grade
totally
10.
off.
Yeah.
I was in 8th grade. Yeah, so 10th.
I would be in
Yeah.
10th or like
We were
11th
like,
grade.
I wasn't even in high school then.
Can I tell you, I guess my honest sort of feeling is like, I've been having the same conversations over and over and over again about patient flow and the barriers in healthcare. And we got to be preparing for this and we got to have a solution for seniors' health. And none of it seems to be improving. It seems to be getting worse. And I've been having these same conversations at these tables with leaders and, hearing through the media and hearing, all of the challenges and struggles. And it just doesn't feel like anything is getting better. And I have a really hard time working within a system or even working within a job where I see a solution to a problem and I can't fix it.
I feel like just talking to so many different healthcare professionals on the podcast, I was able to kind of not understand, but more like come in terms with what I would like to do going forward, or like, yes, we have.
I love that.
Yeah, we have healthcare is broken, blah, 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 this, that. But
Same. Exact same. Like
talking to like the healthcare professionals and working and just
listening to them,
especially, I have just come to realize that what I would like to be doing going forward. So I would love to start with that, but let's start with like each one of ours quick journey. And do you want to go first?
Journey of the year or journey of what?
Journey of the year.
Sure. Okay. Do you want to
Just a
start?
year.
Yash?
No.
Your year is more amazing.
He doesn't want to start.
I don't want to
You
start.
just
I
had a
just
good
want to
year.
get an idea of how
How
the
maybe
flow
wanna-
of journey is working, and then
Let me hear your journey and then I'll mirror
Yeah.
it. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. You should start. You have a good
My
story, I think.
year was pretty stagnant, to be honest. Like, I think I just spent a big chunk of my year trying to figure out what I want to be doing right now. Because I think right after I graduated, or even like a few months before that, there was a sense of panic going around in my head and peers.
Maybe even your social circle too. Yeah.
Yeah. Like all my classmates were panicking. Everybody was losing their minds. People were changing provinces and running around like their head was on fire. Like, it was crazy. So definitely, like, I just jumped into it and was like, I don't give a shit. I need a job. I'm employed, which took me a few months to understand and come to terms with that I have a job. I'm not dying. Everything is
there
okay.
was moments when I was like, Sham, like, you're not desperate. And I think that's the beautiful thing when you have a job and you're going into an interview and you already kind of know you have that security. you should be going into that interview being like, I don't need this. Like, it would be good if this happened, but I don't need it. You were putting a lot of pressure on yourself.
I was definitely, the thing was, because I was like just so frantic at that moment, I was also applying to jobs that were
beneath you.
That were, as much as I'm a fresher, new to this industry, there were certain jobs that won't qualify, that I was overqualified for. Like, or I wasn't even qualified for it. Like, it was a completely different industry and it was more of a fresher job. I was already in the industry. It was kind of different. So I was applying to those like out of desperation and getting so disappointed when interviews would go bad, or like I would hear some insane email from organizations, and took me a second, but I kind of realized that all of that was for the good. However, talking to the healthcare professionals here and through OBM, like to our events or the events we went to, like whoever I met so far, I think I was just able to understand that there is uncertainty at all levels. It's going to be consistent. And as much as healthcare from a long-term perspective, a nursing home, a hospital, an administrative organization that just supports a hospital, whatever it is, like whatever setting we're talking about, it's going to be a shit show. And it's not just Canada. It's not just Canada.
No.
Maybe Canada's structure is a little bit different. It's free healthcare. There are a little bit more funding issues going on, but I think it's around the world. Like, we definitely have a few good things that Canadian government can maybe look at other countries and take away from, but it's throughout the board. It's all industries, all levels. It's going to be the same, and people have no clue what they're doing.
Preach.
Like, I would tell you, like, when you look at somebody from afar and you're like, oh my god, that's the director of like daily operations, and you look at them and you're like, oh, they know exactly what they're doing. Look how they're talking about policies. They're just so sure-footed, and they just know. They have no idea. They just
no
Googled
idea.
it 2 minutes ago.
idea.
Anybody who tells you that they have it all figured out is lying.
It's lying. Like,
Only the people who have like a fixed job, like, book appointments,
yes,
schedule patients,
They know-
do
they know
this,
what they're doing.
do X, do Y, only they know what they're doing.
Yeah.
People who are doing planning, like
Decision making?
decision making, who
Resource
should do
allocation.
what,
Yeah.
resource allocation, financial allocation.
this was a very quick conversation from today, but I was just talking to senior admin from my work, just like a normal social conversation, and we were talking about an opening that came up, and they have a requirement of understanding the care home policies in Ontario, and I was just like, oh, is that like a certification that is required? Do I need to be like proficient? He's like, no, you just need to know.
There are like long-term care administrator programs, but Sham, like, you don't need that at all.
No, that's not
way.
even what I'm saying. What I'm
Good,
saying
okay.
is like when like these people who are responsible for, the reason I talk about these people is because I want to be that person. Like, I want to be somebody who's making decisions for healthcare, because that's oh my god, healthcare's on fire. I'm not gonna sit around. Like,
something's got to give.
It's gonna be
Something's gotta
frustrating.
be
Like,
fixed.
what are you looking at? We were just talking about at the coffee shop.
Someday
His
I would
10-year
like
plan.
to.
Ooh, 10-year plan.
Yeah.
Download that onto me. I love
Yeah,
that.
10-year plan, of course. It's not like it's going to happen tomorrow. I want to
Yeah.
become a clinical manager someday.
You have to
Yeah.
play the long game.
Yeah.
So you
Like-
definitely have to play the long game.
I've come to realize that with the idea that you want to get into work, if you keep thinking about it, your social circle, your professional circle, everybody comes on the same platform. Like, Yash and I have like, oh yeah, we want to be an executive, we want to be making decisions, we don't want to be like, neither of us want to be in a regulatory body just doing a practice. Like, we don't want to be front lines.
Yeah,
So I
not
feel
at
like just by looking at those people, you're like, oh my god, they have everything figured out. But I swear to god, they Googled it 5 minutes ago.
Yes. ChatGPT, definitely.
They just Googled.
Oh, now it's ChatGPT. It was Google before that.
Yeah.
But Sham, clinical managers, they have a fixed job. They know what they're doing.
Yeah, there are some clinical managers out there. No word of a lie. I've seen some job postings are making like over $100 an hour.
Yeah, but they have a job. Like, they have a fixed job. They have their daily checklist to do. That's all they do. They are
Clinical
not
managers?
Yeah.
Clinical
Well,
managers.
I did that
they
for a very
definitely-
long time. It's not very cookie cutter. It's not cookie cutter.
I feel like
You
in
spend-
healthcare,
Yash,
there's just
like, no word of a lie, you spend probably 80% of your time dealing with HR shit. None of your job is clinical.
Clinical managers?
None of your job is clinical as a clinical manager.
I'm like, this is a third person perspective. I'm only talking about what I look at.
That's
I
what
don't
I'm
know
saying.
what's happening
See?
I
inside.
worked as a clinical manager.
That's exactly
for 5
what I'm
years,
saying.
my man.
When
you don't get to do anything fun as a clinical
We need
manager.
to talk up more about this.
Now
I need
that's
to change my
exactly what I
10-year
was
goal
saying.
then.
When you're looking at a job from afar, you're like, yeah, that they have this shit figured out. They know this, they do that. But when you talk to them, it's like, no, they're constantly making decisions. There's so many other responsibilities that are just shadowed behind all of these fancy, oh yeah, I just have to do a checklist. There's so much like constant decision making and like dealing with arguments and
burnout. Like you get burnt out from the number of decisions.
yeah,
that you have
because
to
you're
make.
like the number of policies and regulations and things that you have to take into consideration, ethics, this, that, it's insane. And like wherever your human life just gets involved, policies, regulations, and so many different type of, laws that come into play. And then you have your unions and
financial cuts,
budgets.
and I'll be very, very quick and just say, like, clinical manager, you do maybe 10% clinical anything. Like you spend, I would say 60% of your time in HR meetings, another 25% to 30% of your time in project management meetings where you're making plans for improving systems. And HR also includes all of your interviews because you're constantly hiring. So you need to block off several chunks of time throughout your week so that HR can be booking you for hour-long interviews throughout the week.
Isn't it true that the moment you step out of frontline, you just start immediately making decisions? Like
That's it.
you're just dealing with
you're putting out fires all day long, but not the fires you are
would want
passionate
to.
about.
You would be dealing with like what is that called?
Incident reporting.
Incident
so
reports.
every single incident that gets submitted gets thrown into your inbox, and then you have to go and investigate and then write a report on what you did to mitigate that risk to prevent that thing from ever happening again. And if you have certain trends in your incidents occurring on your unit, then that can be a red flag for them to come onto your unit and say, like, we need to be improving your
It's your
medication errors. All of the things that go wrong are on your head. It's a lot, and it's all human resources. Your clinical manager skills as a clinician, no, like you don't get to use your clinical skills anymore.
No,
It's all people management. And if you like managing people, then become a clinical manager.
See, that's what I'm saying.
My recommendation.
I think for OBM's podcast this year, I think the biggest takeaway for me and our listeners, I guess, would be getting like a first person's perspective, like into those exact fields that you have, like, oh my god, this is such a nice OT. I was like, oh my god, OT is so cool. Like, but then we had the OT the other day, and I was talking to her, and she was telling us all of these crazy responsibilities and things that she has to deal with that have nothing to do with her being an OT at all.
Wild.
And I was like, okay,
You just become like you also get 150 emails a day. And you can't keep up with the volume of emails. And then because you spend so much time in meetings putting out fires, you have no time to do your actual work. So you're only paid for 7.5 hours a day, but you actually work minimum 12 hours a day because you start checking your email at 5:45 when your alarm goes off, and you don't stop checking your email until 11 o'clock at night when you close your eyes on the pillow.
Yep. That's pretty much.
That's
and
clinical manager.
I think the reason I wouldn't understand that from a hospital's perspective, because I haven't worked in a hospital here. But even in our long-term care, I think like if there's an email going at 4 a.m. by night shift that, oh, people are not like showing up, or this happened or that happened or something, my manager is up returning that email immediately.
You bet.
She is online, and she will stay online up until
There's an expectation that you kind of are available all the time.
Yeah.
It's very like we preach work-life balance. We preach it. In leadership, I think there's a lot of preaching about like you should be doing this, but in my opinion, it's almost a sign of weakness if you can't maintain that like unrealistic standard.
You definitely need a
performance.
very thick skin. A very, very thick skin.
Yeah, big time.
Because you will no matter what you do, no matter what, even if you're, for example, dealing with union grievances, no matter in whose favor the decision went, you're gonna get shit for it.
Yeah.
Whether it's from like your front line, whether it's from your management, somebody's gonna shit on you, and it's gonna be on you. And it's the moment you leave frontline, it changes.
Yeah.
Gone.
So, Yash, you've been in your role. You just dipped your toe in patient flow. We were saying earlier, like, what were some things that maybe you had rose-colored glasses about before you got your job? And now that you're in the job, you kind of realize, like, whoa, I thought this was going to be this way, but now I'm here and I realize it's this way.
First thing I would say is when I just moved here, looking at what's happening, my first visit to a hospital was like 2 months in the country. And I waited for like 6 hours to be seen by a doctor. And I was like, if they have such a shortage of doctors, there are people over here who are internationally trained. Why don't they this, that? And it was all, it's still third person. I don't have any first-hand experience about this. It's still, everything's third person. So I was all, why are they not trying to get the internationally trained professionals to be working over in this country and making it easier for them to work over here? This is what I thought when I went to a hospital as a patient. When I went to a hospital to work, I worked there for a while. I realized doesn't make sense. Doesn't make sense.
Where do you think some of the gaps are?
Yeah, I understand why it's not that easy for internationally trained professionals to be working inside a Canadian hospital, because the standards of practice are completely different. Both of the standards are right. Nothing is wrong. People over here are right. People back in my country were right. But it's completely different. And it's not like you go to a new country and pick up everything when you start working. Like, if you have learned something by books and don't have any practical knowledge about it, you go to work at a place, you pick everything up quickly. But you learn something by the books, go at a place where you have to apply it, and at that place it's completely different, you wouldn't be able to survive at that place. You'll make mistakes, which will be not, like, the mistakes will be more out of standard protocol. And I think that would be more of a criminal negligence than medical.
It would be negligent. Yeah.
And I wouldn't even say it would be medical negligence. It will be criminal. It will be criminal. Like, you can't just understand, like, there's a disease X and I used to do Y for this disease. You come over here, they do it completely different way. They have completely different set of standards.
Is there a specific thing that keeps in your mind that you fixated on that is very different?
Basic, very basic.
Really? Like
very
what?
basic
like
thing.
Taking temperature?
No. Name of a drug.
Right. Okay. So pharmacology. Yeah.
In India, there's a drug named paracetamol, and we use it for everything. Headache.
That is like
paracetamol.
That's
Tylenol over here. Tylenol over here. Acetaminophen. You come over here, the dosage is different.
In measurement?
In measurements.
Understood. Yeah.
In grams. Like,
so your ability to convert from what measurement system do you use in India?
we use grams.
We use grams.
We use grams. But over in India, it was, for tablets, it was 500, 650, 1 gram. 1,000 grams. Over here, it's 1,000 and 2,000.
Yeah.
In India, if we want to do 250 grams for someone, we used to do half a pill. You don't do half. You don't cut a pill in half over here, and that makes it 500.
No, because pills can have different distributions and to cut it in half, you can't guarantee what the dissolving metabolism of whatever will happen.
I think it's also like the amount of dosage the ethnically Indians or South Asians are used to.
Absolutely. Is it higher here, you would think?
It's higher over here.
It's higher over here. It's higher over here.
I mean, let's just call a spade a spade. Like, the pharmaceutical industry in North America is off the rails. Like, the pharmaceutical industry is multi-billion-dollar
I think
industry.
it's
That's
more-
like that everywhere.
Yeah.
Really?
Pharmaceutical companies, of course, they'll be
opioids
multi-billion.
and stuff too in India, like fentanyl and you
There's
know.
no fentanyl in India, but there are opioids.
We have
Okay,
opioids.
is it like a crisis in India?
We won't
Drug
say
use on
for-
the streets,
Yeah, that's pretty common.
that's pretty common.
But the thing
Like
is,
worse than here?
No,
it's-
Not worse. Than
I
here.
don't
but
think it's
not,
worse
not
than
all
here.
of them are medically. You know how you have like a medically induced ones here? Like a lot of people went on opioids and drugs for their medical purposes, and then they went into
because
drugs.
it was being marketed as this miracle pain drug, and if you were living with chronic back pain, they were like, "Look at this
there are
incredible
less.
thing."
There are less cases of that in India.
Exactly.
people-
It's more of
were-
like an influence youth conditioning over there. It's
yeah,
less prescription medication
Yeah.
abuse.
What
I've-
about preventative medicine over in India? Like, you know, here it's almost like you have to have stage 4 cancer before they are really kind of prioritizing you in the queue of things. Like, is there more of a focus on preventative measures in India, or are we still kind of dealing in an illness model? Like, we're only treating the illness, we're not preventing the illness?
There's a huge difference in workflow and funding in Canada and in India.
India has both public and
private.
Hybrid.
healthcare system.
So if you are waiting for a public, of course it will be clinical, like at what stage your disease is in public. If you are waiting if you are in the queue at a private place, it's
Whatever
have
you can
seen-
pay for.
it's whatever you
I've
can
honestly
pay for.
seen like really good preventative treatments being offered even in a government hospital or
Really
like
good.
funded hospitals, because the pressure on those hospitals is less, because people who are able to choose private healthcare are going to go choose private healthcare, not because the services are different, just because they're able to afford. There's more luxurious, you know how people go to Turkey to get their hair transplant. The reason is because it's like you get a hotel 5-star, you know, you're living luxuriously and getting all that
Is
treatment
that a real thing?
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
You have, like, a
And
whole
You can
package.
go to Turkey and literally get your entire body scanned, every single orifice
People
swabbed,
go there from the
your
States.
blood drawn,
Yeah.
all of your dental
All
for
tests.
$600.
I thought it was just
No, that's a legit thing.
Oh,
Like,
that's real?
people are-
Yes, they feed you some fancy like lunch. The
They
hospital's
have like a 5-star hotel
Wow.
stay. It's
I want to go to Turkey like tomorrow, and I need to have my body scanned from the tip of the top of my head to
Yeah.
the toenail on my toe.
oh, you shouldn't. I mean, like, you know, you shouldn't get a body
Well, I'm a
scan.
hypochondriac, so
You know, because every normal body will have few abnormalities.
well,
Yes.
And
I'd
those
like
that-
to know
and
they're
those-
there so I can hyperfixate
Those
on
don't
them.
make sense medically.
I think, so for example, like my mother's mom, my maternal grandmother, she got diagnosed with cancer. Now she does not have her husband or anybody in the forces, but she got treatment through the government hospital, and one of the best ones in North India, because her son was like an ex army guy, like my
Ames.
uncle. Yeah. So she got her treatment from there, and her treatment started from, I would say it was thorough, like better preventative medication, and also the fact that we have other medications except for just the regular pharmaceuticals. You know, we have Ayurvedic, we have homeopathy, really
So do we,
prominent.
but
Yeah.
it's not as normalized here.
It's not normalized
It's
and
almost seen a little bit
prioritized.
like hoodoo voodoo-y kind of like, which
people
I don't
call
agree
it-
with. I believe in naturopathic, homeopathic. Like I saw an osteopath for the first time. Like chef's kiss, would deeply recommend.
So
Like,
there are a lot of preventative treatments that are generalized and just very normal for Indians to go and get before shit goes down. And I believe even when you look at the like antibiotics treatment,
but even the
dosage
food
here
that
is
you
crazy.
eat, like, is India on the same bandwagon as we are in North America with like pumping your stuff
Absolutely
full of
not.
hormones and crap? Like,
there was this
Definitely
North
not.
American blogger. He went to this supermarket here, and I mean in North America, and he bought like
a zucchini or something.
a snack, like an Indian snack, and that was imported, and then he bought like the chips that Canadians eat or Americans eat, and he was just comparing the ingredients. In ours, it was wheat, flour, you know,
Salt.
spices, salt, like those basic stuff, right? And then there's like some voodoo chemical shit.
Oh
in
yeah,
the
like
American one.
QR19, XYZ.
Yeah,
chemical,
like, why
red
are you
dye
eating
from,
that
like,
shit?
There's just wild things, and like so. two
Developed
comments-
country problems.
I don't
Big
think people
time.
understand when I say India has a lot of clean eating. I don't mean street food videos that you see. I mean the ingredients that are being put in products that most people eat. They're pretty clean. They're organic. I mean, yes, we do have fertilizers and stuff, but our government we have agriculture, the government Ministry of Agriculture and stuff. They have so many research labs funded really well to like develop good strand of, organic.
That's what I mean. Like, there's a big difference between the government putting initiatives forward to develop healthy food versus the government like passing laws that you can inject your chickens with hormones to make them grow bigger breasts, but like chicken breasts.
I was so surprised.
If you take a look at the size of a chicken breast in the grocery store, like imagine the size of the chicken that had to have that meat on them. Like chickens aren't meant to be bulked up on steroids. And this is the whole reason why we're seeing younger and younger girls develop puberty sooner, because of all of the crap that's being pumped into their body indirectly through the milk and the protein.
I was so surprised when I came here. I was so surprised when people started talking about their milk is like
2% fat.
2% fat and pasteurized
this
and
and
shit.
that.
And I was like,
So you
what am I
drink raw
drinking?
milk?
No,
We didn't pasteurize
it.
milk, but we don't have 2%, 5%.
Pasteurization just
like-
involves like
That heating up
Heating
to
up and-
110 degrees or something.
So
That's
what
all.
kind of milk do you drink here? When you go to the store and buy milk, what kind of percent do you get?
I get oat milk or almond milk because
Oat
what the
milk or
fuck is
almond?
2%?
Okay, cool.
I'm not
Like,
really sure what percent it is, but it's the red one.
Red one.
It's the
That's
3%.
Okay,
Yeah,
you're
that's-
almost drinking homo milk.
That's
Like, that's
insane.
what it's called. It's
That's
called homo milk.
insane. That's not.
It's like the milk that you feed your baby when you're weaning them off of formula.
That's insane.
So
high
it's good
fat.
or bad?
Really
It's-
high fat.
So I'm still
like-
young.
Of course you're young.
I
You
can drink
should-
high
your
fat.
bones are growing.
You should be drinking that. You
I
should
can
be
drink
drinking
high
that
fat
even
right
when
now.
you're older because it's.
The high fat content is good, definitely.
It's
Definitely.
good.
But
It
what
has
I'm
a lot
saying
of-
is, in Canada, like that milk is usually for people who have a deficiency of some kind or who are maybe on a keto diet, or you're feeding it to your child as you're weaning them off of formula.
I don't. I think
In our
there's, like-
country, babies, when you're weaning them off of formula, they start eating chicken.
Yeah, they eat.
Oh my gosh.
They eat
Baby
freshly
led
prepared good food. They eat whole food.
I imagine. Yeah.
And like it's not like a solid piece of
No,
chicken.
like-
it's
no.
too.
Oh my gosh.
And then
they eat spices. Spices is good for them. Their stomach,
Of
their immune
course,
system.
yeah.
Like, come
As
on.
it should be. As it should be. No,
No, but, like-
we don't need to go down crazy rabbit holes, but
Yeah.
my girlfriend has 2 young kids and she showed me baby-led weaning or baby-led, and the way they feed themselves is so crazy. Like they just shove so much crap in their mouth. It's so weird. I do not have the maternal gene in me at all. Like at all. It scares me. Watching little kids potentially choke, like I can't handle it. I can't.
So yeah, like
I don't think so.
so I think
yeah, so
major
yeah.
differences.
I don't think you. Maybe you mean it.
I
but
think you'll be fine.
I don't think you are sure of it.
What do you mean?
I'm
With your,
don't listen to him. He's yapping.
I'm not.
He's yapping.
You think that I want to have children?
No, I mean you might not want to have children, but your maternal instincts are good.
Oh, I love children. I'm not saying I don't like children. I just know myself, and I know that I would not be able to successfully raise a child without fucking them up.
I think you will be.
I told you he's yapping.
No, I'm not.
Thank you for saying that.
Okay.
But I know me very
So
well.
yeah,
I barely
going
take care of
back
myself.
to the difference between the
Healthcare system.
healthcare systems.
Oh, we are back. Okay.
We're
Okay.
back, and we're back.
Okay, so like yeah, so there's a lot of difference between South Asians versus North Americans. I think there's a lot more commonality between South Asians and Asians in general, and Europeans and Africans versus North Americans. I think you guys are isolated.
We're on an island, like we're on our own different.
Yeah,
planet,
as much as
feel.
I am very, very confused why people in the UK eat like bland ass food, but they're still eating a little bit of whole food. Good for you.
Even in Italy, like you were just saying earlier that you want to go to Italy. When I was in Italy, it's like you eat pasta and you drink wine. Like you eat so much, but you don't feel crappy afterwards. Do you know what I mean?
Fresh.
Like here, if you were to go and listen, I don't often do this. It's been 100 years since I've ever been to like Eastside Mario's or something. But like you're not eating real Italian food at Eastside Mario's. Do you know what I mean?
I
like,
just think it's like you don't even have a choice. Like Indian restaurants over here, they don't have a choice. If they're gonna buy like chicken in bulk, they're gonna have to buy like from
whatever
those
hormone
pumping
injected company is.
It's the regulation that the country is following.
But I mean, if it's any peace of mind, in Canada, our regulations are way more strict than the States. Like the crap that you eat in the States is way less
fair
regulated
enough, but
than in
the
Canada.
thing is, I believe the comparison between that's what I'm saying. Even the drugs, right? Like the antibiotics that people get over here, the dosage, that's fucking insane. Why is somebody getting on antibiotics 4 times in 6 months because they have a UTI? Like that is insane. You're killing that person actually. Like
yeah, I know.
Their kidneys, their liver, like what are you doing to them?
It's all developed country problems.
It's all developed countries' problem. Like the amount of times I've seen people start popping antibiotics the moment they get a cold.
Yeah.
I don't. It takes me a good 2, 3, 4 days to even analyze like, hey, do I need to be on medication? Like, no. I get over my flus like that.
Yeah.
And
I am sick as a flippin' dog when I get sick because like my entire life I've been pumped full of antibiotics. And this is partially because my mother was unwell and she was bringing us to multiple doctors and telling them that we were sick. And then they were just prescribing us antibiotics because she would refuse to leave unless they wrote a prescription. So there was a time in my life where I was like immune to certain drugs because of how much antibiotics was pumped into my system as a kid. And then even just last year, like that whole rigmarole that I went through, I was on antibiotics 4 times last year.
that's insane.
So bad for you.
I have been sick multiple times the last 2 years, but I don't think I've taken any dosage of antibiotics at all.
I've been sick a lot of times.
Yeah, maybe I would take a Tylenol if it's like super bad and I have like a crazy fever to break the fever, maybe. But I have not taken antibiotics.
Good.
Like
you'll live longer than me.
my point is the established culture, because doctors are so quick to prescribe, and I see why they would be, because they have so much pressure on them, the number of people and patients they're seeing. It's like, fine, you're sick, you're coming to the ER with a fucking cold, take this medication and fucking leave. I get that, but again, it's the system in general, like the regulations that the government had put forward for like that. So I don't think it's fair then to compare Indian healthcare system or any other country's healthcare system to Canada's, because there are definitely boons to it. People don't get to jump the line. I understand that there's no, like, oh, because you're rich you get a treatment or something like that. That's one perspective to look at it. I get that, but at the same time,
No, there's no comparison at all. It's completely different in India.
Yeah.
Any other country, go to, I'm not sure about any other countries, but I'll speak about India and Canada, which I have seen. There's no comparison. Everyone's right at their own place.
Yes.
It's the demand of the population and the country's problems.
Yes.
Looking at how people live over here, private healthcare, not possible.
Why would
Not
you
at
say
all.
that? Why do you think that?
See again,
Socialism and capitalism.
looking at it from outside, even I thought private healthcare is such a good option for a country like this where everyone's rich, this, that, and that. I started working over there. There are no rich people inside a hospital.
No, I get that. That's
even
what I'm
the
saying.
doctors are not technically rich. Like the rich of the rich, you don't go into the service of caring for people to become a rich person.
Yeah. Even if you are rich over here in this country, you get sick, you'll be broke in a minute.
99, I wouldn't say 99, that's a very exaggerated number, but I'm going to say like most people who retire in their late 50s, early 60s end up with cancer or some horrible, awful thing within like 5 to 7 years of retiring. And then they just dedicated their entire life to doing whatever they flippin' did for their career for a very short period of time to be able to enjoy retirement and what they You know,
But I feel like, yes, I do agree with that. But I also think there's like a very small but significant mind shift change with the middle-aged group right now. I'm not
big time.
talking about us. I'm talking about, let's say, millennials, for instance. I think they're moving from that perspective too. And that is where I kind of disagree with the privatization of healthcare. I do agree that rich people, they will go immediately broke because the expense of
more money, more
healthcare right now.
problems.
Healthcare is very expensive. The services are very expensive. But here's the thing: everybody is paying for healthcare through the government. They're paying taxes, blah blah blah. The same loop all over again. People who are not even accessing those healthcare are still paying for it on a regular basis. Once you take that away, you put that in the privatized insurances that are available and stuff, which is being followed in the US. But I don't agree with that either, because their model is fucked up because of the privatization and the
Somebody literally just gunned down the CEO of United Healthcare and literally shot him in the middle of the city center because of his fixation on capitalism and healthcare in America. And I think that's something to be said about Canada. Like, we kind of have two worst case scenarios. Like, we have capitalism and socialism because we pay an astronomical amount of taxes towards making sure that no matter who you are, where you come from, you get access to the same level of healthcare, and we have all of these social services that exist, like welfare and mother's allowance and blah, blah, blah. So we're taking care of people who can't take care of themselves through our socialist model. But then we still have a lot of the same complexities from a capitalist perspective because of how expensive it is to live here and how it's like this constant sort of grind to have more and more and more. But then it's unattainable. It's like it's impossible.
I will say to that, like if I'm not gonna say that, kind of puts a target. But I understand that the government per se invites a lot of like whether it's international students or refugees or whoever
it's
whatsoever.
Horribly done.
First of all, it's the government's decision to do that. So you did offer foreign nationals the opportunity. They picked it up. They were like, are you sure? They were like, yeah, come here. And then we did, right? So for me personally, I was paying for health insurance as a student when I was in school. I did not have health insurance for the longest time. I didn't have OHIP either. So the only time I ever had to go to the ER was through my work. So that was WSIB, which again, I was in turn paying for from my taxes and everything. So I was paying taxes and still paying taxes, but I wasn't covered under OHIP. Now, talking about, so that's this state of work permit holders and all of that. So before you go crazy and be like, oh my God, we're funding for your healthcare. That's not true. You're not. I have paid more in taxes for all of the services that I used than I've used. And I'm not even covered under HOIP. So that's that. And going forward to the refugees, I do think that's a government's problem.
Big time.
Canadians elected them. If you didn't have a system in place to take care of people you invite to your country, don't invite them. And once they're already here and you tell them, oh shit, we can't take care of you need to go back, what the hell?
They didn't have a system in place to manage higher education either, which is why it's a flaming freaking dumpster tire fire right now too.
I think there was a lot of money coming in from international students because we do pay like
billions on billions,
triple and almost four times
tuition.
Four times compared to
Shut
Canadian.
the front door.
The course that we did, it was $36,000.
You did office, right?
Healthcare, you and me
same course. Yeah, we paid 18 a year.
18 a year.
Yeah, so 36. So
ours was $36,000. The course for a domestic student is
8,000.
6,000.
4 and 4.
$8,000. So my point is that the reason why they had all of these international students coming in and the private universities or even the government funded universities started getting all of these people in was because of that. I understand that, sure. Now that they're here, you put a cap on how they acquire their work permit, whether or not they can get it in the first place, even though you were advertising in foreign countries that exact same thing. Oh, you can come here, you can work and blah, blah, blah. We are short of workforce. I remember when we applied our visas, we didn't have a hourly limit to how much we can work because there was a labor shortage.
And then all of a sudden it was you can only work 24 hours of pay or something.
It was there before. But then they removed it for these certain months because they had a labor shortage.
Yeah.
So when you're having a labor shortage and
Use and
domestic
abuse.
students are complaining that we don't get a job. I don't understand what's going on in your country at that point. Like, why is that the case? You don't have enough people to work, so suddenly you're like, oh, come work more hours, and then you're like, oh, now we're done. You can't even enter our country. Fair enough.
Oof,
Understand.
not fair enough. I
understand. But here's the thing. Going forward, they have completely stopped. Did you hear the last one? They have completely stopped any more work permits to be coming in for the next 2 years. No more work permits to be processed.
From
have not
November
heard
of
that.
24.
For study permits to be processed.
Oh,
No
yeah,
more
yeah.
study permits. So no more students are coming in at all. Zero.
This is why I have to find a new job.
My point, the whole thing is, we kind of drifted way away from healthcare per se, but I was just pointing to that.
Just the
one
government
thing.
in general. I think it's important to reflect
Yeah.
on these things.
I think-
it's important to capture.
Yeah, the reason why this all
experience.
was important was because going forward as a young professional in a foreign country, I think my perspective has switched from, okay, what do I want to do with my career and what am I going to do with dynamics, this, that, where do I want to work, to more like everything is shitfire, nothing is certain. You just got to do the immediate next step that you can see. Do the
But
best
you
in
guys are
that.
doing
Just like,
incredible with your scores. Like we just found out that your scores for PR are good, right?
Yeah.
but that becomes irrelevant if the draw goes up.
What do you mean?
Exactly.
So, for example, if let's just say hypothetically in an industry, the draw is going for 450. So everybody over 450 to a certain number can acquire PR at that point. But then the thing is, they can change the draw
minimum score.
at any point to whatever the fuck they want. So if tomorrow they decide to switch it to 550, neither of us qualify.
But do you think that where you're at kind of in the average continuum that you're still kind of floating decently? Are they gonna go tomorrow and say we're hiking it to
Can you-
585?
They
listening
can.
to the news that you're listening to right now, do you really think we can be that confident over
I don't
anything
feel
at that
confident
point?
about anything ever, anytime.
So the PR score is kind of like that. It has fluctuated a lot since COVID. It was really low right after COVID. Like people got their PRs at like what 380s, 370s.
They did TR to PR. No application. COVID
Nothing.
times, nothing. You are a temporary. You are on a work permit. Tomorrow you are a PR.
You know
Yeah.
what's really sad is like Canada's immigration system and program was like world renowned, and we had such a respected like way of integrating immigrants into our country for so many decades, and then all of a sudden like the fucking world burned to the ground and Canada was just like panicking and letting all kinds of
You know what, ma'am, personally
circumstances
speaking-
happen.
Personally, it's yeah.
Personally speaking, I really don't care about the problems over here.
Do you still want to stay here?
Yes.
Yes, but
I
I
want
love
to
you for saying that.
I
Thank
want
you.
to see at what I want to do,
yeah,
where I can get problems, create opportunity.
yeah, exactly.
I want to use them for me.
Amen.
I feel for the people who are suffering because of this. Personally,
you acknowledge them, but you can't, like, I personally cannot afford to be like, oh my god, Canada's government is burning down. Because here's the thing, when Canada's government burns down, the first target's gonna be me. Like,
I think in a complete opposite way.
Tell me.
When Canada's government's burning down, I think we have better opportunity
Oh,
than
yeah.
anybody else
100%.
because we are working in healthcare.
Oh yeah, STEM, right? Yeah. Science. Yeah.
STEM is gone now.
Yeah.
It's no
it's
more.
the only programs that are being. So I learned this
Not
recently.
anymore.
Like the colleges are shutting down
Not anymore.
programs and turning them into moratorium or some crazy thing, and
The
only
reason
courses
why-
that are STEM related are being
The
launched in
reason
college.
why
changed it
that was because
recently.
they changed it because initially they were telling that either if you're doing a master's or you're doing a bachelor's,
Now it's this. There's no STEM anymore.
there's no STEM.
Now
if you're
it's-
getting a master's program or you're getting a bachelor's program and
Or
you're
a
getting enrolled in
PhD.
that, or a PhD, only those programs are going to be qualifying students to get a work permit after they. I feel like this is kind of like a completely different discussion. Which is
It's
kind of-
perfect. It's
yeah.
great. It's perfect to talk about. It's timely. The colleges are on the verge of a strike, which is insane to me because as you're telling me, you know, only programs that
Colleges
are under...
don't have a basis to strike,
this
to be
is
honest.
what I'm saying.
They don't have a
I'm sorry if
basis.
this is controversial, if you have a different opinion about this, whatever, but like I've been teaching in the college system for 8 years and I can tell you, like, we do not have a leg to stand on striking right now. It's foolish to strike right now.
Colleges cannot strike. Maybe the professors, like the academic staff can against the colleges, but colleges don't have a basis to strike. They saw an opportunity and they exploited the shit out of it. Conestoga created campuses in Milton. How many
In Brantford.
In Brantford. How
They
many
don't have-
Do you see you have taught in Brantford. How many
Do you even have do you even have public transport over there?
we do
It's
have public
trash.
transportation. It's a little worse than
And
any other city.
what's the frequency like?
It's like half an hour
2 hourly?
on peak hours, and then it's an hour.
It's trash.
It's a loop. It's a loop system. So you have to be in a loop for an hour.
Is it? It's
Yes.
a loop system.
It's a loop system.
It's not a loop system anywhere else.
It's not. That's
It
what I'm
is
saying.
loop system everywhere.
No. Not that. I mean, an hour. If you're starting from the transit,
It's like that everywhere.
ayo,
Just the frequency of how many buses are on the road at it.
you need to
given
have
time.
multiple buses. So you have like half an hour, 15-minute buses in Waterloo, right? Ours is one. We have one bus.
How much does it cost to take the bus?
What?
It's an ignorant question.
Yes. 1 hour loop.
Oh shit.
This
That's
bus
bad.
is gonna
Oh.
start
I told
again.
you, trash.
Oh. I thought like
No, the peak hour you will have a half an hour one, but on not the peak hours after 6, I believe.
so like one bus running through the entire town.
I don't
And-
know.
There's like a
You
shuttle, I
have-
think, that can bring people from other campuses to that campus. But
Don't
needless
even-
to say,
No, that's-
what I'm trying to say is like,
That's trash.
listen to me. 78% of faculty across the 24 colleges in Ontario voted in favor. 78% of faculty voted in favor of a strike.
Strike against whom?
But who's
Working.
striking? Who's striking? The,
The
faculty,
faculty.
or the college?
The faculty,
Against?
the colleges, like the union.
That's
Because our
understandable.
contracts haven't been renewed. Our contracts are due to be renewed, and a lot of the verbiage and the language and the whatever it is.
No.
I'm very ignorant to this, so please take this for whatever you want to take it for. But my understanding is that some of the verbiage hasn't been changed since the 80s, and like according to my sources, professors are advocating to say like we don't just teach theory anymore. We're teaching adults how to
skills.
live. We're teaching adults how to survive. Like basic adulting skills are happening in college classes.
That is kind of like a broken system on the college's part, and I do understand.
I didn't vote, and I very, very poignantly have said that I don't agree with the idea of striking.
I would say that faculty striking against colleges makes sense because colleges did exploit both the students and had like
And
false
the professors.
Well,
promises
the bottom
to
line
their
is
professors.
that colleges are saying, that they're under some, crazy pressure with the budget and they've been in hiring freezes and whatnot. But some colleges in Ontario have like billion-dollar profits. And I think because you can't hide that stuff. So people see like how much presidents and whatever are making. And then faculty are saying like, I don't know if you know this, but we only get paid for our lecture time. You literally only get paid for the time you are in the classroom physically. You don't get paid for emailing, meeting students after class, marking, preparing for lecture. You get paid for none of that. So I do not agree with the strike, very poignantly do not agree with the strike. But I will also say if you are a good professor and you are good at your job and you are able to effectively, prepare for lectures and use your time wisely, like you can have a very comfortable life as a professor. So I don't understand
what is
this
the
weird, I don't know. I don't understand.
My question is, what is the let's just imagine if international students were not the big hot topic. What is the domestic student intake for courses? How many of them are actually going for postgraduate diploma courses?
I wouldn't be able to answer that question actually, so I can't
Do
say.
people over here even have time for studying?
Do they have
Absolutely. Like
bachelors?
most people, like, so in my generation anyway, it was ridiculous. We were basically fed this narrative that you had to go to university, like university or die. Like you have to go to university.
You have to go to university or die.
That is
For
that is
real.
true.
So
It should be like that. Stop with
But
the
most people,
woke.
listen, most people who go to university come out of their degree and do not use their university degree. So they end up going back to college.
Isn't
That
that
is-
your problem? Like, isn't
That's
that an
the
individual
systems,
problem?
yeah.
But Yash, we have some real bullshit university degrees that people take that are not useful at all.
Isn't
but
that an individual problem? Don't take it.
certainly, absolutely.
Don't take it. You,
But why do
you
these
know it's
programs
bullshit.
even exist?
She'll know it's bullshit. I know it's bullshit.
No, like
Maybe
here's
it
the
makes
thing.
sense for someone. You
Yeah,
can't
maybe
take a
it's
degree
like-
just because it's there. You have to learn something that you want to learn. You
I
can't.
guess what I'm trying to say is like there's so many people that are pumped out of higher education. Statistically, it's alarming how many people have a university degree, but they have a job that has nothing to do with their university degree.
I am just gonna-
like what they went to study.
I don't know about my generation here, but I don't see a lot of people going to school.
Because
Not
they're
now.
I know
all
people who
invested
have-
in this woke thing.
Woke.
Will hit you. I'm so sorry. What is this woke thing?
You know, I don't want to say it on camera, but both of
gonna
you know
ignore
what
him.
I mean.
It's
no,
the
you don't.
audacity.
No one needs to ignore me.
But we're not ignoring. We're not ignoring.
I'm ignoring Yash.
Yash believes in the system. Yash is very much a systems-minded person and believes that if you follow the system will work.
There is a system because it worked at some point.
But I believe that the system
Okay.
is outdated and archaic and needs to be updated to match the information and technology that we have access to.
Let me just ask you, what system are we talking about?
Education, like
Education
Government,
system?
education.
no, not educational system. The belief system that if you go to a good university, you
Okay.
get a good degree that you like, you study something that you like.
Let me advocate for my front lines, okay? I have PSWs. They all went to school. Each and every one of them. I have a wide range of them. They're in 60s, they're in their 50s, 40s, 30s, and now 20s. Let me talk about the 20s one. Any frontline PSW who has been in the industry for at least, let's say, 5 years, so they are like 25, or they all start when they're like right out of school, so like they're 18, 19, and they start working already. So they're not negligent. They're not working. They're not putting themselves not to school. They're just doing the right things. Are they able to afford an apartment? No. Are they able to afford a single person's livelihood? I'm not talking about lifestyle. I'm talking about livelihood. No. All of them, again, have put themselves through school.
Some of them single mother, single parent.
Yeah, they have been employed since they were 17. I wasn't employed when I was 17. They have been employed since they were 17. They have worked jobs before that since they were 15, 16 years old. And I'm talking about domestic, like
Born and
citizens.
raised. Yeah.
Born and raised. I'm not talking about international. That's a whole different scenario. But I'm talking about the woke system that we're talking about. They all have been working really fucking hard. They are not able to afford basic lifestyle. Not because they're ignorant with their money or they don't have financial literacy. All of them know what's the right thing to do. They know they need to have a TFSA. They need to have an investment. They need to have all of these things set up. Everybody needs to have an RSP to
But if you
buy
can't
a
even
house.
barely afford your public transit pass and your groceries each
Exactly.
month, like how
Why
is
do you
that
have
possible?
to? I know people who cannot Uber back home on a Sunday evening after the transit closes in fucking Brantford after 6 p.m. because they're living paycheck to paycheck. And this is the last Sunday and they cannot afford a $10 Uber. Now, I'm not saying that, and they're living with their parents. Like, it's not affordable right now. If you have basic education, that's how I would say, oh yeah, you're working minimum wage and you're ignorant with your money, you're smoking weed all the time. No. Yeah, let's not talk about differences in healthcare. We were talking about how when we see and reflect on executive leaders or people making decisions and we're like, oh, their job is so fancy. Like, oh, there's a checklist, so beautiful. That's not the truth.
No.
It comes down
okay.
to human resources. It comes down to those decision making every fucking
And
second.
human resources has very, very, very unusual things that you have to do for people that you would want to fire immediately, but you can't. And then you're like handcuffed to all of this HR crap that you have to abide by and create learning plans. And it's a lot of crap.
So
You
that
wade
was
through a
my
lot of
takeaway from the
crapola.
year. What's your takeaway from the year?
Oh,
Welcome back.
I think the amazing thing, and I'm so very, very, very proud of both of you, but I think the amazing thing for you, Yash, is like you did it. Like you did the thing. You did the thing. You got the job.
All thanks to you.
You did the thing. Well, I mean, not all thanks to me. Like I didn't do the typing test and I didn't do the interview and all of those things that you had to do.
Well, let's say half thanks to you then.
Yeah, I made the connection. And I think that's probably, well, both of you sitting here today have your jobs because of connections that you made, whether it was a connection that you made for yourself or a connection that was made for you. I think it's safe to say that evidence shows 100% of the time, if you have a good connection, it's more likely to result in a job than if you don't.
I keep saying that the reason why we three sit together in a room and have this discussion is because even though we don't agree on a lot of different, ideas and perspectives, there's a commonality between how we put forward in front of people. We have this level of confidence that not everybody carries, and it's easy for us to communicate and have work environment. Yeah, just like be able to leave an impression. Not everybody is able to do that. And again, I think that is one of the skills that cannot be taught. I feel like it's more of like stepping out of I'm not comfortable talking to strangers. Like,
not at all.
Not at all. I hate talking to strangers.
But when you have to be on in a professional environment, there's a skill associated with being on in a professional
professionally, I think you are talking socially.
I'm talking socially in the sense that you're connecting yourself to a professional and like being able to, make those.
Oh, no, I'm comfortable doing that.
I'm not comfortable actually going up to strangers and talking and working a room or making a connection. I think I do that. It's me. I go home and I'm like,
oh gosh, yeah, absolutely. I'm way better in a professional environment than I am in a social environment.
I can talk to anybody and everybody, but I won't be comfortable going up and doing that constantly. Yeah. Like you have to listen to a lot of crap and and I don't think I'm comfortable doing that, but at the same time there's a level of comfort that I cross to do it in order to get what I need.
Well, I think I've said this before, like you don't grow by fitting yourself into the same box all the time. In order to get outside of that box, you have to grow outside of that box. And sometimes growth can be painful and we have to put ourselves in weird, awkward circumstances where you have to have conversations. But if you don't do that, you don't grow and you just stay in the same cyclical situation over and over and over again.
I think a lot of people get really uncomfortable around me too, who are my peers, because they see me doing too much.
I don't think it's too much. I don't think there's a such
you wouldn't
thing.
like the person I'm talking to or the people around me won't be like, oh yeah, she's doing too much. But when you jump out and you're over the top, you're extra, you're trying to make a connection with somebody who's maybe a step above you,
you have to put that extra.
You have to be extra. Yeah. I am definitely extra when I'm talking to and my peers would be like, you're not the same person. And I've gotten that so many times. Be like, you're not the same person that you're with us when you're talking to I don't know, admin. Like, that's because I definitely don't need to be that same person. With you, I'm a friend, I'm chilled out, I'm laid back, I'm listening and getting feedback, I'm kind of calmed down. But when I'm talking to them, I'm leaving an impression. Yeah.
I feel you. When I'm talking about something professional, I can go on for a good amount of time.
Yeah.
I went for I had an interview. I was completely prepared professionally. I had in my mind they're going to ask me we want to build a set of stairs. What material do you need?
Yeah.
And I know what I need to build stairs. And they asked me, what's your biggest achievement in your life? What? What
am I supposed to say to that?
We are not talking about me. Aren't we at a job interview? Why are we discussing my life?
That was my interview with the clinic. I went in all prepared. I'm like, I know my policies. I know everything. I know clinic's operation and I know my shit. And I go there and she's like, yeah, so you're Indian. I love your accent. I was like, oh my God.
I know, right? I'm so uncomfortable talking about personal things.
Yes.
I've done so many things in my life. I have too many achievements, I think. But I don't know what my biggest achievement is. I don't think I have done anything big to be biggest. Like, I have personal achievements, like I cooked a good meal.
Yeah.
I learned to drive, how to drive. That's...
And I think that's a cultural thing too. Like, I think that from a profession, like the person who was interviewing you's perspective, I think that shows the kind of work culture that you would have been hired into, is that they do care more about you as an individual than they do about your professional accolades.
But ma'am, I really
Maybe
did...
that's what the organization is trying to push
Portray.
forward through
I
their
really did bad in
organizational
that
development.
interview. That
Well,
interview
because
was
you are very
completely
robotic.
personal.
Like, you can be very robotic. Like, you can be, the tools you need to fix the stairs, right? But because you just said, like, talking about my personal, like, I don't want to tell these people that or
No,
what
I
do
would
even
love
say?
to tell that to you. Like,
Yeah.
Us.
Yeah.
But it's a foreign thing to hear an employer want to know, like, what do you think you've achieved? Like, but this is very commonplace. Very, very
I
common.
have been able to accommodate myself to talk to different kind of people, and I think the only reason is because I'm like never prepared.
I can't be prepared. If I am too prepared, I overthink it, and then I am an idiot.
I can be prepared as well. So that's what I'm
Yeah.
saying. Look,
I cannot be prepared when I'm going for an interview. I have my technical knowledge in place, and I sincerely
That's
think
enough.
interview needs to be a little bit more. Yes, if you're having multiple rounds of interviews and you're going to start off with like a little bit of technical knowledge, I understand that. You go in the interview or second interview and you're like, okay, I need to understand this person and if they're a great fit for our organization, but at least learn if I know basic policies.
Yeah, but you also have to remember, like, when they're asking you, like, tell us a bit about yourself and why you think you're the best fit for the job, you do have to sprinkle some of the interpersonal, like, components
100%.
of, your...
ma'am, that's a very common question.
Yeah,
Everyone's prepared for that.
There's a everybody's prepared for that.
So then you could have responded to that question.
I did respond to that question, but I know in my head, like, the moment I took like 2 minutes to think about what I'm going to talk about, I started talking about it. I finished my answer, and I was like,
You took 2 minutes to respond to that?
Oh no, he's
No,
just
no.
saying like he
to
took a
think
second.
about
Okay,
what
but
I'm going to
was
say.
there like a long pause and then you were like, this is what I think?
No, not like a long pause, but like, okay.
Because I'm like, maybe they didn't give you the job because you were quiet for 2 minutes and then
No,
finally...
No, he's
not
saying it in
like
the
not
sense.
like actual 2 minutes. And then the moment I finished my answer, I knew this was the shittiest answer I can
you were blowing
ever
smoke.
give.
You were just blowing smoke. You were just making...
I think like just working and talking to as many people as you possibly can. I'm a yapper by birth. It is easy for me to talk to different kind of people. It exhausts the shit out of me because I am okay. I don't know if you guys do that, but it's called mirroring.
Oh,
Like
yeah.
you mirror the person. So if that person's being really friendly, I am immediately the best friend out there. Like if the person is professional, technical, I am doing exactly that. I think I mirror them, which makes it easier for me to talk to them. But at the same time, people observing and my peers, they're like, what the?
There's an actual science to communication, Like, I hyperfixated on this at a period of time. Like, there's a certain number of seconds that your handshake should be. There's a certain number of pumps that your handshake should be. There's a certain number of seconds that you should be making eye contact. You should always end your sentences with eye contact and then avert away. Like, there is a whole science to how to be an effective communicator.
Out of all of that, what I was saying was like my perspective to getting frustrated with like workers or admin staff or people who are like my potential competition, if I put it that way, is that they may or may not have the same skill sets that I have. So
everybody has a...
yeah, but technically, if I'm talking, they may be overqualified or more qualified than me. But at the same time, at a very recent event, like another position that I would be interviewing for in a few weeks, the conversation between me and my manager was, yeah, there's like 2 staff that applied for this position and they're more senior than you. But then she looked at me and she's like, they can mess up the interview. And because she and I interviewed multiple people together, and I interviewed with her twice or thrice for different positions, she understands that I am good at communicating.
Communication is key. I know that's so cheeseball and corny, but I've identified something in the last 6 months to a year. Like, we can sit here and preach like, you got to meet people and you got to network and you got to, be communicating with all these people. If you don't know how to communicate, you can go to a networking event and be like, yeah, I'm going to communicate with, but if you're awkward, or if you don't introduce yourself in a way that delivers charisma and comfort and, just that vibe, right? You got to deliver the vibe. I don't think that, from a professional development perspective, I feel like we're putting the chicken before the egg. Like, a lot of young people need to check themselves and say, like, how confident am I in a room with people that are smarter than me? Like, how confident am I to, stand in front of an executive leader and talk about why I wouldn't be a waste of time for them to spend time teaching me?
I think
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I know what you mean.
A lot of my peers don't put themselves out there mostly, and it would be me personally as well. If I'm around my peer group and I have to put myself out there for some opportunity, I would stand back for a second and think, because of the potential judgment that might come. And that happens a lot. Like, even at our OBM events, when we had students coming in, and I could see like somebody would be like really charismatic and talking to everybody. The others would be like, why is she so loud?
Shy, standoffish.
Why is this person so loud?
Yeah.
Like, be loud. I love being loud. I don't care what any of those people think. I can be as loud as possible. I can be as dramatic as necessary at that moment, if that means opportunities.
Yeah, I attended, you guys weren't at this event, but I attended an event like a few weeks ago. It was an IT event, and I wasn't on the panel, but what we were talking about was so engaging. And in the moment, I was providing a lot of really great content and things that I was saying people were really resonating with, and everybody was like, holy crap, like, you should be up on the panel. And I thought to myself, like, the people that were on the panel were talking about the chicken before the egg. Like, the people that were on the panel who were addressing IT professionals. How many IT professionals do you know that would say, I'm charismatic and outgoing? Like, IT professionals sit behind a computer on a keyboard, and they're introverted and they're shy and they have social anxiety. And the panel members, are well-established career, people, and they're like, you got to network and you got to meet people. And the guy or the girl sitting there is like, I want to crawl in a hole and die thinking about what it is you're suggesting that I have to do. Like,
to that, I would definitely want to give a shout out to Sarthak.
Oh,
I have seen his work.
Kid. He's a man. Sorry, he's not a kid.
He does IT, but
web development.
Yeah, but he is putting himself out there with his YouTubes, his vlogs, and everything. And even when he's like talking, we've never spoken before, but we were in that meeting together with those students. We were doing a meeting, and we're just kind of we're getting feedback. Like, we were giving feedback to some of the suggestions they put forward, and I immediately was like, "Hey, Sarthak, what do you think?" And he was proficient. He was going, yeah, Sham, this, that, I worked with that, and he's like
3/4 of the things that they had presented. Like, he already knew all about it.
And he's like, he's putting himself out there, even though he's sitting behind the screens. You know what I mean? Like,
and I did, and when I mentioned that to this group of IT professionals, I was like, remember that not everybody has charisma and confidence naturally. Like, it is a muscle that you have to exercise. You can't just walk into the very first room that you walk into and think that it's going to go amazingly. You're probably going to fumble, and you're probably going to, feel like, man, I talked too much, or I should not have said that thing, or whatever. But the more conversations you have, think back to the Social Next conference. Like, we did the Social Next conference back in April. The only one of us that went around the friggin' room was this hot ticket right here. And even myself, as somewhat established whatever, like, I had a very hard time even just going up. Like, I talked to the guy from LinkedIn, I think, and I talked to like maybe a couple of other people that you forced me to talk to.
I think this is a game.
Yeah.
Liza said that, and I resonate with that woman so much.
I know,
because
she's a queen.
When you say that, you put a mask on and you do what's needed, and you don't think about like, oh my God, what are they gonna think? This, that. As long as like your parents are not, I'm not gonna say that. I'm gonna change my.
Well, and I think just pause for a moment and remind yourself that that person is in their own mind about whatever it is that they're gonna say to you, and if they're gonna make something, mess
they're
up,
irrelevant. it's everybody's so irrelevant. You are irrelevant. You're a flicker in the new universe. If you want to be loud and you want to talk obnoxiously, you want to annoy and stalk a person for a little bit so they can give you a job, do it.
I think the bottom line is the more authentic you are to your most truest version of yourself, I think that you are then able to tap into that confidence that you need.
Like play a character.
If you're faking something, faking can come off as phony, but if you like truly, believe what it is you're
just
spieling,
play
and
a character,
spouting.
be a good actor at that moment, and be like, I'm gonna act as like a healthcare professional who deserves that job, and I'm gonna go talk to that person because they can get me that job.
Do you think you would be equally
how do you
successful?
I don't think you take the same approach.
First thing when I'm with in a room full of professionals, I'm humbled.
He observes. You're an
I'm
observer
like,
too.
where am I? Like, do I even fit in this place? I'm like,
100%.
I'm so insignificant over here. I start off like this.
Mm-hmm.
Then we start talking.
Yeah.
Then we get to a point when I realize,
Same shit.
I know this.
I know more than you actually, maybe.
maybe not, but at least I know what you are talking about.
No.
I can have input about it.
Yeah.
Like I can say something about what you are saying.
Mm-hmm.
And then I start feeling confident about myself, and then I start talking.
Yeah.
I won't say that I'm overconfident when I'm meeting them. I definitely don't have it. I go in and like I have no clue what you're talking, like what you're doing. So I would love to know. Like listening is definitely
For sure, listening. And also like be and I say this with, I want to be very careful on how I say this, but like be an interesting person. And what I mean by that is like listen to podcasts and read books and talk about a restaurant that you went to and that you had a good, like you want to have examples of like things that make you human as well as a professional, because you can't just be like all business and no humanity. You know what I mean? Like there has to be something intriguing about you and your character, and I read this article or I watched this movie, or have you seen that documentary? Like you have to relate to them in a human way as well as a professional way in order for that connection to be made, I think.
I think it's the only difference that I see when Yash and I are in a social situation together is my approach that would be high, and I would be like, they look at me and they're like, okay, we're gonna talk to this bunch. And Yash is like standing there for like 5 minutes listening to them, and he's just going, yeah. And then suddenly he pops out and he's like, oh, that. And then he probably has something so relatable, and then they just clap and they're buddies now. And I'm like, okay, so that's done. Let's go.
That's what I generally happens to me. Like,
And I think this is a really good thing to say. Like, not everybody's approach is cookie cutter. Like, everybody's approach is going to look a little bit different. So again, if there's somebody out there that's like, if you do this and this and this and this, then you'll get this. It's like, no,
that's not true.
Necessarily. Like,
not at all.
You might
necessary.
have to do this and this and this, but then go back and have to do that thing again and again. And then, there is no one size fits all solution to how you can develop yourself as a professional. But I think the more you know yourself and the more you are able to develop yourself and your confidence and your ability to communicate and develop rapport and relationships with people, that's going to make you a successful professional in no matter what industry you work in.
And honestly, like whatever you say, like being a successful, because that was my biggest thing this year. It was like, oh, I want to at least succeed in my career. Like at least that's the one thing that I should have a hold on, right? And you're like, yeah, that's the definition of success. The way it has changed within a year.
Yeah.
Like I don't define my goal the same way I did the start of the year.
Oh, no. Not at all.
No.
So different.
No.
Yeah.
Like my goal starting off the year was something entirely different.
Entirely different.
Right?
Yeah.
What did you start with? What was it?
Timestamp. Like I want to look back on this episode in a year from now, because think about like 365 days doesn't feel like a lot, but if your entire perspective on your direction of your life has changed in a year, like
my perspective, I wouldn't say my perspective has changed. My life has changed, like for real.
Oh yeah, I know.
No cap. No cap.
No cap.
Yeah. Is that right? Yeah.
Dude,
no cap.
I drove you to an interview at Toyota car plant this year. Like that happened this year.
Oh
this
yeah,
year.
we were deciding
if
you were gonna take
down a job at Toyota making $30-something an hour because you
32.
Yeah, because you wanted to
32.
pursue,
32.
You said, no, it doesn't make sense for me to take this thing. I could take this thing and I could, be collecting whatever. And you, yeah.
Every time, like, okay, FYI, I just completed 2 years in Canada. As of today.
20.
Today is your anniversary?
Yeah.
Shut the front door. That's
nice.
amazing.
Today.
Congratulations.
Like, today's
I'm
when I
so happy
landed
that you're in my life.
in Canada after like 12 o'clock, midnight, 19th of December, I landed. And I was like, oh, shit.
You're here.
I have
You're here.
7 more days to
7
complete
more
my
days
2
to,
years.
yeah, okay. So you
Oh
came after
my.
Christmas?
27.
27th.
It's
Wow.
20th today, right?
20th, yeah.
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 27.
Wow.
Like,
Wow, 2 years.
when
My
I came
goodness.
here, and when I came here, I had this idea in my head. It was like, oh, I'm going to be a student. I don't know what I'm going to do. I don't know how to get through my expenses with the GIC. I was like, you know what? Fuck it. We'll see.
We'll figure it out.
We'll
We'll figure it out.
When I came here, I was all, let's start off as a VG. Let's move to the States. Start off as a VG over there. Liquor store,
Oh my gosh.
Richfields, gas
Richfields.
station.
Right?
Yeah.
Everybody's killing it, doing just that. So who are we to judge? Like,
Is he?
it's the answer.
Yeah.
Like, I swear.
No, but that's how I started.
I told you, I've been preaching this for the last 365 days. I want to open a laundromat and a friggin' parking lot and a vending machine company tomorrow. Like, I think that these cash cow friggin' jobs that boomers are aging out of need to be scooped up by young people.
We can launder so much money, you know?
I don't want to launder any money. I literally just want
Like
to.
parking lots.
She doesn't need to know.
We spent so much time on LinkedIn this year.
Oh my God. If LinkedIn has the highest engagement per person, I
you
think we're
know-
taking the award.
Yeah.
You know, she's not talking about LinkedIn for real, right?
Actually, I'm
The fuck are you talking about?
Yeah, it's just a umbrella term for your most used app.
Just teasing you.
No.
Okay,
Oh,
so
it just clicked.
let's
I
talk
did spend a
about-
lot of time
Let's
on
talk
that app this year.
Last thing, normally we do the Olive in the Pit, so I feel like we should do Olive in the Pit for 2024. Like, what was your olive and what was your pit? And you don't have to be very specific, but like from a olive perspective, like what was something that you feel was really positive for your professional development, and then maybe something that was a pit that was maybe like a really trying or struggling thing that you're like grappling with.
I'll go second.
Cool.
Always. You go.
Me
Yeah,
first?
Yeah.
Okay, this is easy. The olive is very easy for me. Like, look around you. Look where we are. Like, this year was an olive in so many ways, and I've been reflecting on this so much, but like, I learned more in 2024 than I think I've learned in 10 years. Like, I learned so much, like from business development, from like taxes, from opening the bank account for the not-for-profit, like technology. Are you kidding me? Like the podcast, like bending your mind around RSS feeds and like just bananas how much I feel I've been able to learn from this experience. But the pit, and I hate that I have to, kind of use the same. The pit is that amongst all of the learning came a lot of painful lessons and a lot of lessons that I had to wade through and process properly, because the only way out of those challenging situations is through them. And the pits were the fucking pits. Like this, I had some of the lowest moments of my life this year, like easily. Yeah.
Oh, their olive was not. I didn't get that.
Just
Your
as-
olive. I didn't get that.
What do you mean you didn't get that?
Like, you didn't understand?
I didn't understand it. You were very vague about it.
Oh, he
What
wants
do
you to be
mean?
a little
Just
bit more
what I've
specific.
put
Like,
into Olive, like what I've put into this, like what I've put into the podcast, and what I've put into the not-for-profit. Like I've never.
the fact that you went from, I'm just telling what I understood. The fact that you went from like a clinician to switching and being a professor to just entirely starting a whole business and learning things that were way beyond your industry and, what you were initially doing as a professional, like learning about how to start a podcast, learning about event management and starting funding accounts.
Oh
how
my
does a
gosh.
business even run and function and all
Endless.
of that?
I would be scared out of
Aligning
my
myself
mind.
with accountants and lawyers
Yeah.
and like banana. And not only that, but I would say like as part of the olive of all of this is like for those of you who are listening, I've probably sat down with all of you. Like I've probably sat down with many of you who are maybe listening to this, or if you are still listening at this point, you obviously care enough about what's happening here. So I feel like this year I've met more people that I would never normally have ever had the opportunity to rub elbows with. Like I've put myself in circumstances that I am very uncomfortable being in, but have benefited each time I've done it. And I think that that's very important. And like just going back to the very start of this episode, I was saying like, I feel like I'm at the beginning of my career again, but with a lot of wisdom.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like I have wisdom to kind of apply to what it is I'm hoping. And not only that, but I'm keeping myself very educated. Like I'm consuming educational, meaningful content. Like YouTube University is a thing. Like I feel like I constantly have to be keeping up with the way that other young professionals are talking and communicating in the topics that they're talking about and the trends and what we're seeing in the media and the news. Like I feel like, and just going back to the comment I made before, I feel like a way more interesting person now. I feel like I have way more of a diversity in the topics that I am able to talk about.
I would say that within this year, from like our first meeting at Sociable. So funny, I was at Sociable today.
At where?
Sociable is like a kitchen that we first met to discuss about OBM.
Oh, you guys. Okay.
Yeah. So from the first meeting and what we spoke about, because OBM was like an idea. It was there, but it was an idea of what we were potentially going to look at, and me joining it and us getting on getting people on board.
Those are like infancy days, like baby little teeny tiny little seed days.
What we spoke about, like the context of the conversation, like what we discussed about our private things and stuff like that, from what our conversations are now, you definitely have a shit ton more of knowledge than what you started with. And not in the sense,
Oh, no, go ahead. I'll
not
You
in a,
can comment from even 2 years prior.
like
the other day at IHP, I told Sham, like, when you were talking to that group of people at the table we were sitting, remember, in that room?
Yeah.
I told Sham, like, this is not what I got.
This is not the mentor I got.
My mentorship my first was like 2 years ago, and I was like, this is not at all what I got.
Yep. You're feeling ripped off.
Yeah. I was like,
He came too soon.
I was like, it has changed so much. Like the things we spoke about in my first, when we spoke as you being a mentor and me being a mentee, very different things.
I don't think I really understood your experience when you and I first met and we were really first talking. Like, I think there was a part of me that just felt so bad.
Doesn't matter. Like,
No, not even that. Just
it doesn't matter.
approach
Even if you didn't get what I'm saying, you didn't know anyone sitting over there. Mm-hmm. But the way you were talking to them and the way you talk to me.
How was I talking to them?
He doesn't mean like you were sweet or impolite, something like he's saying
like the breadth of what it was I was speaking
exactly,
of.
yeah.
I
It changed a lot. Like
the accommodation of
everything.
And it's linear now. Like I'm able to articulate things in a way where I'm providing you with useful, meaningful information. Whereas I feel like in the beginning, I wasn't able to like articulate exactly what
you knew the resources,
factual things you needed to do. And like now, whenever I have an interaction with a group of, people or whatever, I give you, these are the things you need to do. You need to do this and this and this and this and this.
No, I don't think so.
No?
That was how it was with me.
Yeah.
You told me you do this, and it's done. Mm-hmm. With them,
you were
when you were
tailored.
telling this, it was not this. This was a broad thing when you are talking to them. With me, it was a single thing, like do this course, take certifications online, improve your resume.
It sounded like I googled something.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's all trash.
With me.
Yeah.
I mean, that was not bad. That was good enough
It was
for me
practical.
at that time. But when you are speaking to that group of people and I heard talking to you to them, you were telling the same things, but the spectrum was broad.
It was
Like-
tailored yet accommodating to different.
You told them to get certifications, but to me, you told me to get this certification, like do BLS, do ACLS. Just an example. I don't exactly
your
remember.
knowledge base about
Yeah,
what
but-
This
we
is
can
what I
do
mean.
and what your potential mentees can do has grown. You understand their circumstances that they might be coming from, and you're accommodating even when you're just going fluently to a stranger. And you're like, your
Yeah.
potential circumstance can be this. So you can look at this, but this is also an option, and this is also an option. So like,
Remember when that guy came up to me and you were like, oh, introduce me to this guy. And he was like, hi, yeah, like I'm interested in doing a job in this, or this. I was like, that's the wrong answer. I said that right to his face. I was like, that's not what you're supposed to say. He was like, oh, what am I supposed to say? And I'm like, what do you really want to do?
Yeah.
Because if you walk up to a professional and you just say, I just need a job, any job whatsoever, just PSW, whatever, unit clerk, whatever, I'll do anything. It's like the professional's going to look at you and be like, do you even know who you are and what you're capable of doing? Like that interaction when somebody says like, tell me about yourself shouldn't be this desperate, like, I'll take anything, I'll do anything. It should actually be more like, I need some guidance because I'm having a difficult time kind of understanding where my priorities should be. These are the things I'm interested in. You know what I mean? Like, as a young professional, you need to be able to articulate yourself out. So, like, no matter how desperate you are, you still have to be able to articulate yourself in a way where you have purpose and direction and a focus and a goal. Because as you said, like when one of the first mentors that you spoke with, she said like, my brain is very expensive.
I carry
Remember that?
I carry
Me
that
too.
every time I'm talking to somebody.
Yeah. So this guy walks up to me, he's like, I just need a job, any job whatsoever. And I'm thinking, okay, like this 10 minutes that I'm spending with you, like could have been better spent with somebody who has a very clear direction or a very specific question that they want to ask me. Whereas, you know, when you keep it very generic, you know, how many messages I get a week, like, hey, I'm looking for a job doing this. If you have any leads, let me know. It's like, yeah, you and 700 other people. Do you know what I mean? So unless you are able to connect with someone in like a meaningful, purposeful way, like they're not going to think of you
I
again.
think that was after my my father's advice about opportunity, luck, and hard work. I think that was the next best advice I've ever that has ever stuck with me. Like, if you're going to anybody, their mind is so expensive, and you need to use this like it's gold. Like, be so respectful and appreciative and responsible with the time that you're getting with them. And I think that's definitely one of the best advices we've ever gotten.
Yeah, 2024, that was a big one for me too.
Yeah.
Be respectful of the time of the people that you admire and that you look up to, and you want to be value add to them, not a weight to them. You want to be showing how you can contribute.
What about you, sir?
positively.
You were going to go second.
Yeah, you were. Olive in the pit. Doesn't have to be as long as what I just went on yammering about.
I think for me, Olive was the understanding of what I want to do in the long term.
Love that.
I'm not even sure if I will be able to wanting to do it after let's say tomorrow. But for now, I think I know what I want to do, where I want to get, and I think I also know how I want to get over there. If all of this works out for me, best thing, like that's like
reality
a
is,
dream
like,
come true for me, like, you know.
There are people that you have not even met yet. There's technology that hasn't even been invented yet. Like, there are so many things that could happen in your life that you might think that this
Which
idea...
happened this year.
Yeah.
Which happened this year. I started my year off as interviewing for Toyota to working at a really good place where I really like to work. I think I'm growing professionally, which is a really good thing. That's the olive for me. For the pits, just a really bad year.
Interpersonally.
Too many bad things. But I wouldn't say the bads were more than the goods. There were too many goods as well. That doesn't mean there were no bads. I'm not comfortable talking
You
about
don't
the
have
bad
to.
things,
No.
but too many. That was the pit for me. And this was all personal.
Yeah.
Professionally, I think a very, very, very good year.
You checked the boxes.
I did so many things. I mean,
Did your parents get you a billboard?
I need to know the backstory to that one.
I don't remember exactly what the conversation was, but I just remember him saying, like, my parents will be so proud they'll put a billboard in the town center or whatever. And I was like, that's incredible.
I bet. I'm going
we
to
are
Mumbai,
still
go
not
check
a
that
big
out.
thing. But being on the board of some organization,
Yeah.
that was like my 50-year tick mark.
True.
Yeah.
You know?
I think OBM.
And I'm glad that I got the opportunity to be on the board.
Yeah.
I don't
Thanks
think you
for that.
understand when you first gave us your introduction as who you are as our professor last year, not around the same time, like 3 months before this time last year, you gave us the introduction of, so I do this, I teach this, and I was just looking at you like, you know, have you seen those movie scenes where the world is going blurry around that person and there's just shine and this big eyes going looking at somebody? Yeah, I was awestruck at that moment, and I was just looking at you like, I want to be her.
No.
No.
Fast forward 14 months.
I still would very much want to be.
Same thing.
I would still very much want to be
Same thing.
where you are.
Our lecture was Friday morning.
Yeah, Friday evening for me.
Friday mornings. Like, I think
Today's
it was.
Friday. Look at that.
I think it was
Today's
8
Saturday.
a.m.
8 a.m. Yeah.
Today's Friday.
Today is Friday.
Today is
Look at
Friday.
that. Me too.
Yeah.
It was, oh, do you believe in all of that? You shouldn't. Anyway, Friday morning, I see her. I'm like, I'm going to leech to this person. I don't know how.
I don't think you understand. I did not put efforts in any of my assignments, but I did in your class. And she got a piece of her finals.
Don't even get me started about
Well,
it.
you were
okay?
online, so I would
He's
have.
So
so
what?
mad.
I would have.
He's like, so what?
You came to my home. Once you were no longer my student, I invited you to my home and I fed you and took care of you that
It's not
way.
about the pizza. It's about the pizza on the last day of school.
Oh, yeah. You did lose out on that, unfortunately. Yeah. Yeah. Well, there's a reason why the two of you are here. Like, there's a method to my madness. And I need to say this. Like, I love that you two are friends. Like, I love that you didn't know each other before. And I was able to bring the two of you together. And you.
It was pretty organic for me to associate. The first car ride we had, I was like, this man has audacity.
When was the first car ride?
We
we-
went to the social next event.
Yeah.
I was like the quietest person in the car at
We
that
were
time.
talking to just you, and I remember that's the first day we gave him the nickname the Audacity.
Yeah.
Because you were just yapping so much. And I remember talking to Professor after we dropped you guys, you dropped me
It was a
at the very
long
end.
drive, yeah.
You guys got dropped and we were just talking about like what we think about everybody, and I was like, yeah, I think I should not say this in front of him. He's gonna get all big.
I already am.
Can't fit in this room. Like, jeez.
No,
Okay.
I was like, shut up, Yash. As much as I was like, yeah, I mean, he has like this dictator mindset, and like he's so, I don't know if he's like low-key misogynistic, but I think he's good for the organization. And you're like, why do you think that? I was like, I don't know. I think there's like a level of balance we need, and he has a structure, and I think the way he thinks, he's very like methodical, and like I like
Yeah.
the fact that he understands, you know, he's smart. And then you were like, yeah, I that's what I was thinking. I was like, now I have told him this, he's gonna be all fucking cocky about it.
Well, listen, like,
Well, thanks, Sham.
Yeah, right. Like, I acknowledge that I am not a perfect leader. Like, I don't have all of the skills to be a perfect leader. And I think that in order to have a good team, there has to be different ways of thinking and different schools of thought and different perspectives. Because if you just align yourself with everybody that blows sunshine up your ass and is like, everything you say is perfect and great, like, Yash is here because he's the only person in the beginning
I
who
can't even
challenged
start
me.
how many times you put up an idea and we have arguments about it.
We fight
Like,
constantly, but I need
insane.
that. I need that. And my therapist has helped me because one of the things that I'm very bad at is like keeping my creative thoughts and whatever's happening in my mind and then not articulating that and making decisions that are poorly executed. And so my therapist is like, in 2025, before you make any decisions, you have to ask 3 people about this decision and see what they say if it's a good decision or not. You can't just be like flying off the handle and making decisions, you know, thinking that it's a good decision, because I get very tunnel visioned into my perspective, and usually 9 times out of 10, somebody adding their perspective makes the idea better. And so
Yeah.
that, for me as a leader, like, it's so important for me, for OBM, for you, for the future of whatever this is going to be, even in 365 days from now, like, whatever the future of this is going to be, I want it to be for all of you.
I think I'll do my pit first. My pit for this year was, I was very, very, very anxious all year. Not in the sense that I was having anxiety per se. I was anxious because I was scared about what I'm doing, and I needed to find structure immediately. And that's not usually my chain of thought, so it was a very new feeling for me. My usual chain of thought is, we will figure it out. And I don't want to do this, and I'm very sure-footed, like, this is not what I want to do. But I think it was just a lot of peer pressure right after we graduated. And personally, I wasn't doing so well. Start of the year was very, very rocky for me. Bone it is. Start of the year was very rocky for me. So when it got added on with like the professional aspect of it, I was very scared all year, which is not a good feeling. So looking back at the year, I was saying 2024 was one of the shittiest years, is what I said for the longest time. But I think my olive for this year is definitely now at this point, I'm able to like go back to my original mindset of, I may not know exactly what I'm doing. Like, I don't have a structure of, this is what I want to do in 5 years, and this is how I'm going to get there. This is what's going to happen. I'm kind of going back to my original fundamental beliefs of like,
Let's figure it out.
Yeah, whatever opportunity is coming my way, I'm definitely grabbing that. I'm going to put 110% of myself into it, and we're going to leave it to luck. Because trust me, like, this year, whatever has gone down has been like, would have been the worst possible scenario for me if it would have gone in my favor. So every opportunity that got dropped, did not happen or did not work in my favor, was such a blessing. And yeah.
Rejection is protection, baby.
Yeah. And at this point, like, I think I'm just able to go into the next year, even with like OBM, my day job, and like personally, just going into there, like, I'm gonna have a lot of fun.
And LinkedIn.
No, we're not. I'm deleting LinkedIn. Yeah, no LinkedIn.
Sham, I love that. I do. I really love that. And I mean, I know that we've only known each other for a year, but I feel like I've known you for 100 years.
Yeah,
Like, I feel like
I don't understand, like, on a if you guys were like my classmates, I may not have sat with you. I sit on the cool kids table, unfortunately. But it's very, I'm always very, it's the connection that I have with you and Yash, it has come in very organically. Like, I don't know if you know this, I'm an asshole. If I don't like somebody, I don't hang out with them, like no matter what. Like I will ignore them like the plague. Avoid them. But I think it's we don't share, neither of us share this same mind, like
No, we
chain
all
of
think
thought.
differently about
our
things.
our approaches are very different, but I think it's just so easy to conduct.
Well, you have to be very mature to sit amongst people who have different viewpoints and different perspectives and still respect each other.
Don't get me wrong, sometimes I want to hit him.
Of
90%
course.
of the time.
Of course.
But it works.
But just because I disagree with you doesn't mean I
Yeah.
don't respect you as a person, and
Same.
doesn't mean that
Yeah.
your ideals
Same.
and I just, you know.
You know what I go back to? Our Pride celebration.
Oh, please cut this, man. I didn't go there.
No. Anyways, we've had a really great year, and the reality is, like, OBM has only been incorporated as a not-for-profit since April 26, 2024. We only opened our bank account at the beginning of May 2024. Like, we are still babies, but we've learned so much and we've grown so much, and there's so much to look forward to in the future. And like, I was looking back at my camera roll footage, and I've had some crappy moments this year, but there have been so many more positive moments. And I really resonated with what you said, Yash, because yes, I've been in the pits of hell, but I've also been on cloud nine with some of the most amazing people that I have ever had this opportunity to be with. So I'm really happy for that.
I don't think OBM is even in the toddler phase right now.
No, it's not.
We
It's
are
infant.
still. No, we are still in the
Startup.
obstetric phase.
Yeah, like the egg has not been released yet.
We still haven't passed our 9-month,
But
9-day
you
mark.
believe it or not, like whatever checkpoints we had for OBM at the start of the year, we have covered majority of it.
Well, I've had people look in on the situation and say, sorry, what? You did what in 6 months? Like, you accomplished how much in 6 months? Like, statistically, I don't know if this exact number, but in order to be in the top 10% of podcasts, you only have to have 21 episodes published, and we'll have 15 by the
That's
end
insane.
of 2024. So like early 2025, we'll be in the top 10% of podcasts in production. So maybe this is a good time to maybe close things out if you guys are cool with that. Like, I'm really excited for the future. We are still very much in our infancy. So if this is any indication of what fake it till you make it does, is like, we're faking it very well, because a lot of people
Professionals.
believe that we are way more established than we are, but we're just a bunch of people who don't know what the hell we're doing, and we have, a rough idea of the direction we'd like our lives to go. But I think we can all agree that
That's all we know.
That's all we know.
A rough idea.
you can plan and you can think you have an idea, but
I stopped planning.
You can't plan because it just sets you up for disappointment. And usually, and as I mentioned, like, rejection is protection. So I think I've taken a couple of really incredible quotes away from this year, but one of them from Liza's episode was, show up to life. Okay, please show up, do the thing, be uncomfortable, focus on a growth mindset as often as you possibly can, and understand that we are all just humans. All of you and us, like, we are just humans trying to figure it out, and try very hard not to put unrealistic expectations on yourself. Surround yourself with people that you admire and that you respect and that you want to be when you grow up, and everything will happen organically. Everything that's supposed to happen for you is already in the works. The more you try to control it, the more the universe is going to repel against the things you are trying to control.
Yeah.
And so that's, I think, maybe a good takeaway for heading into 2025 is stop trying to control everything and just let things happen and show up to life and chase every opportunity that gets presented to you. Cool?
Yep.
Awesome. All right. Well, we're going to start a season 2 for 2025. And I think the focus will be the podcast where we sit down with all of you and we talk about our professional development journeys, and we sprinkle in a little bit of interpersonal wisdom and guidance and knowledge and really factual, sort of helpful information that might help you as a young professional or emerging leader feel more comfortable in your skin and the way that you carry yourself and the way that you show up as a leader, not only to your professional world, but show up as a leader to your own life. And I think that's really important. So that's it for now. This is the All of You podcast. Subscribe, like, share, all of those things, and we'll see you next time. Bye.